Hi, my name is Sam. Today we're going to be doing a market overview of today, Friday, October 17th, 2025. A lot of you guys had questions about what happened today and kind of what the market looks like from an order flow perspective on all the stuff we saw today and the massive sell-off that happened, which was not really news driven but rather sentiment driven. A lot of things shaped up to cause the sell-off, and we can get into it right now. Okay. So first we'll look at the candles and we'll kind of hop back and forth between the book maps and our chart. Just kind of doing a quick overview of what I have marked here. We have a level of overhead here at 67.9350 down to the 85s. And then we have a zone from 73 down to 64. Above price, you can see price respected that zone way before we had that giant flush. That was Wednesday, and we kind of ranged Tuesday into Thursday, which was today. Just kind of had a range through Tokyo and London, kind of building up some liquidity, and then we had this. I put this volume profile on so you guys can take a look. We had a value area high up here, and this is a developed value area low. This was not obviously here because the price hadn't yet reached here. Value area low was more so below this zone right here, which has been a past zone as well. You can see my POC kind of runs pretty far back. And this was the key zone of the session that we really wanted to take a look at, from 714 down to 708. Really, really important zone. And it was kind of a bloodbath today for a lot of people. And I'm going to show you what happened. So here, opening up the market at 9:30. Move my candle over on the 2-minute chart, but here at 9:30, you can see we did have some sort of we had a good market sentiment downward, but as the market opened, we started to respect the VWAP from previous notions. The pre-market put us a VWAP around here, and we kind of respected it until we tapped this deviation here above the value area high. It was kind of a stack confluence, and that kind of set us up to go ahead and retest the zone here over at the 30s. And initially we liked the zone, we were respecting, things were okay until we started to see some massive sell sign right here. I'll take you over to the book maps and we can take a look. So again, what that might look like is, zoom in a little bit. And you can see as price kind of had that early sentiment into 10 a.m., we had that up trade out of the value area high right around here. And you can see sellers start to enter the market pretty rapidly and kind of take control here in the zone. You can see these COB spikes in these zones, and we saw buy side start to die off and hitting the bid. So eventually we kind of met these sell walls that we couldn't overcome. That's that second retest we saw. Let me pull you back over. That retest right here, that sell wall that we couldn't overcome. And we had a flush all the way down into the 20s, where we eventually were met with that anchored VWAP I talked to you guys about previously, where I think I put an announcement out to anchor your VWAPs to where that weekly gap opened, because that's going to be an area of interest for us as the week goes on. And as you can see, it was a very important area of interest, because as POC developed around the zone, we had a buy side squeeze and some buyers got trapped around the zone. And you'll see the opposite happen, but something really weird happened during the session. I'll show you. So this buy side squeeze kind of trades back and retests that POC and VWAP combination, which is supposed to be very strong. And this is the first sign of weak sentiment for the day. Very, 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 very strong side of weak sentiment. We eventually retest both, and kind of you can see sellers start to take over the market and kind of overpower the books. Even though we had some buy side presence here, it wasn't enough to overclaim the zone. Like, this should have been a respected zone if the sentiment was truly bullish. But again, see, we had the giant buy sentiment here, couldn't hold, and we had a flush and retest a couple times down into the next zone, which would be the 60s. And I can pull you back over here too, so you can see the candlesticks. We should be on candlesticks now. Okay, so yep, that you can see there's flush into the 60s, and that's that higher time frame value area low that we tested. And initially we had a strong buy impulse here to kind of respect that zone, and we were met with our weekly VWAP that we broke very, very quickly. We had no stop, all gas, no brakes through that weekly VWAP. Usually a strong zone, and also overlap with a larger volume node that I've marked previously on this POC. This is area of interest for us, and it ended up being a very, very weak demand zone, and ended up being our resistance zone that kind of stacked up, and that really led us into the last short flush of the market. And what that looks like on the book maps is going to be pretty interesting to take a look at. So as you can see, here's that buy impulse that we just took a look at before eventually selling off for the rest of the market. That's that sell side flush. But as you can see, we had aggressive selling all through the zone, but we couldn't push price below this low. Like, this zone was holding, right? And we eventually took buyers took control, and you can see we were hitting the bid pretty aggressively. And as price kind of tried to make its way and reclaim our VWAP and eventually our POC to push us into a bullish sentiment, we started to get a buy side, I guess same thing. We, instead of a buy squeeze, we had a sell squeeze, and sellers would be present in the market, and we trap sellers. And here is where a lot of people thought that sellers were being released, and we were going to start to push these zones as market closed, because as you know, when market closes, we do have a little bit of an impulse as people lift the ask, and that's just part of market theory as that last bell closes. But here, buyers were overpowered, sellers take control again. Well, I wouldn't say control, but they're still present in the market. It's still pretty balanced in the zone. So eventually, as you can see, buyers still, and again, a lot of people are thinking this is a sell side squeeze, we're going to push higher, until eventually you just see this monstrous sell off and just flush all through all the way through the closing bell, really, is when we had that squeeze. And there's multiple times where people got stuck, and I got stuck as well here, especially on this. This was a strong zone for me, a strong zone for a lot of people, and it not holding and eventually retesting and breaking into such a strong flush was very, very unexpected. And going into today, I knew we would be bearish, but I didn't think we would hit into the 40s, and eventually now we're in the 20s. Well, we're going to be in the 20s, I believe, soon. If we break that value area low, that I'll show you right now. That value area low right here. And I kind of marked this zone into Tokyo. It's pretty late here in New York. I usually record my videos pretty late because I have classes, but this zone right here, initially this POC was a little bit higher around this right here, and I kind of marked it because it's going to be an area of interest going into tomorrow. I don't believe London does anything, and if London does anything, then I'm going to have to change my perspective. But this should be a value area low that is going to be our key interest point going into tomorrow, and we can either see more sentiment bearish and a flush lower into eventually the 20s, as I just talked about, and then probably to the 600s. But I hope we don't break 600s for investment reasons. But there is also the upside to this, where this value area low becomes a balance point, and price can eventually start to look to reclaim the zones it's lost during the session, as we've done before. There have been plenty of times where we have reclaimed these zones because the market is pretty euphoric right now. However, something was a little off about this session, so I wanted to make a video about it. Again, don't put all your eggs in one basket, but if you took a hit today, don't worry. keep chugging along. Happens. Try not to give as much as you take back to the markets. And just keep an eye on this zone here from 50s down to the 40s, and I guess you can kind of watch the 30s, but just be careful as we break these 40s. It could get a little rough, and this sentiment could honestly continue. I don't see buyers picking up really aggressively for a little while now, because we have had low liquidity zones down at those prices, and if we start to reclaim those zones of low liquidity and previous where no one was hitting the bidder trying to sell off, we could see some more flushing downward as panic. Okay, well, that's all I had for you guys today. Oh, what am I missing actually? I know I'm missing something. News sentiment. I'm gonna do a video on news sentiment later. Okay, you guys should be all set now to kind of get a better idea of what happened. I'm still drawing. Okay, take care, everybody. Have a nice night as usual.